May I have the great pleasure to introduce a gentleman who was cited as a great influence on Dave, a co-conspirator of Gwar. You will all know him. His name is Jello Biafra.
Thanks, everybody, and thanks for coming out for this. We are gathered here today. Oh, forget that. When Dave died, and I'm not going to say passed away, it was the third close friend I'd lost in a period of a few weeks, and the most shocking and the most unexpected. And like my old friend Wesley Willis. Yeah, let's hear it for Wesley Willis. Say wow! Say wow! Say ooga booga! And headbutt somebody. Last few times he stayed at my house, I had one too, because he headbutted me so much. But like Wes, I had to stop and make a vow to myself not to let a terrible loss like this take away all the joy I've gotten from all things Gwar. And all the wild personal memories and adventures from allowing myself to get mixed up with Dave Brockie and the entire slave pit family. Dave, with that wide-eyed Cheshire Cat grin of his, showing me the early slave pit upstairs for the first time like a kid in a candy store. Like this mischievous, demented child who'd just run off with the keys to Frankenstein's lab. I know full well Gwar isn't just Dave, and never was, but one of the things I've always really admired about Gwar is not just how all these warped geniuses like Dave and Don and Hunter, Chuck, Mike Dirks, Mike Bishop, Brad, Danielle, Scott Kroll, so many more, on down the line until today, Casey, Pete Lee somehow found each other in Richmond, Virginia, of all places. But that many people were able to come together and work with each other to unleash these insane ideas. Believe me, I know how hard it is to keep a band of 4 or 5 people together, but 10, 12, 15, that's amazing. We all know people who just bubble over with awesome, incredible ideas, but it's hard enough to make them work in a comic book, let alone execute these ideas in front of a mosh pit full of lunatics, and then pack it all up and do it again. The concept, the characters, the plot, the latex, the hornets, those hideous costumes, coming up with a way to shower people en masse with all that jism and fake blood from hoses under their clothes attached to pumps hidden behind the band. Brilliant! When students meet at an art school and go out and start a band, this is not what is supposed to happen. Especially when Gwar was still an unknown band playing in very small clubs for very little money, trying to somehow keep everybody they took on the road in that beat-up school bus fed. And yet, the scariest of all the ever-ready bunnies just keeps going and going and going. The ideas keep flowing and flowing for what? Almost 30 years? Still finding ways to assert assault innocent young minds with some of the most degenerate, indefensible art the world has ever seen. And get away with it. And have people wearing Viking helmets, or before she became Slymenstra, a snake costume to the show. What kind of ringmaster, organizer, ball of energy can motivate that many other creative balls of energy to put in all the hard work for something like Gwar year after year after year? The constant in Gwar all this time was Dave. And like Robin Williams, Dave Brockie can never be replaced. I will always miss him. I will always love him. I was first subjected to Gwar when I went to record something up in New York with Kramer, and the first thing he did when I got into his loft was, you know, there's something I think you need to see. My life was never the same again. That early video became my favorite show and tell toy for unsuspecting guests like Al Jorgensen for the next 2 or 3 years. It was so much fun to just pop it in just so I could stand back and watch people watch Gwar, having no idea what was about to happen to them. So I made a detour down to Richmond to see an early Gwar show, their Christmas show, when they were opening for the Butthole Surfers. And Hunter Jackson came out as Jesus Christ and was promptly crucified on a Christmas tree, tied up with Christmas tree lights, and heaped all this icky diluted milk from their jism puppets through the whole show till he had to go off and change into Techno Destructo, not knowing his parents were in the crowd that night. And apparently he was kicked out of his own family for a long time after that. By the time they hit the West Coast, I found myself cast in the show. Or was I abducted? The Metro in Oakland, I came out in one of these satin baseball jackets worn by idiot music executives to this day to sign Gwar to a contract made out of toilet paper. Next thing I knew, I got smacked in the head with a goblet and a blood bag, and then the blood's running down my forehead, behind my contact lenses, and it stung like hell. So yes, the screams were real. I introduced Dave to my close friend and master collage artist who's done so many of my album covers, Winston Smith. And they became who'd like to be here today and sends his love to everyone in the slave pit and everybody here. He liked jazz music, my music, and Gwar. His reward for becoming fast friends was they threw him in the meat grinder. Then they threw me in the meat grinder. My favorite meat grinder memory is when Gwar first broke big and we're playing the Warfield Theater, big place, 300 capacity in San Francisco, for Bill Graham. Wow. My hair was a little longer and curlier at that point, and I realized if I played this right, I might even be able to impersonate Bill Graham. So I got that same satin baseball jacket and stopped the show, scolding Gwar, scolding you guys. You, what do you think you're doing on my stage? Jerry Garcia would never do anything like that. You want real music? Santana, you out there, you owe all your money to me. You owe your scene to me. You ain't nothing. I own you. And then, imagine how wild the audience went when Bill Graham himself, the meanest rock biz person in California, thrown into the meat grinder. Just erupting while I was slowly inching my way down the inside of yet another homemade Gwar device, splintery plywood, trying not to land on the whirring fan blade as a Gwar slave was feeding hot dogs into it to spray the audience with Bill Graham's entrails or Graham burgers or whatever. Man, what else is there? I mean, I was never on his Twitter feed because I don't do that, but I hear it was a real tweet. And even now, finding out that Dave was an adopted child, and just visualizing his adoptive parents finally with a bouncing ball of joy all their own, and he grows up to become Oderus Urungus. And many of you, I think, have seen when Joan Rivers had Oderus and Beefcake on there. There she is trying to keep a straight face while somebody in the most hideous mask ever made. Basically, human beings we see as food. Dogs, so briefly into the jaws of death. Everywhere you look nowadays, you look on TV, you see people being run over by tanks, beaten by the police, people starving, and new sexual diseases. Obviously, the human race is in love with self-destruction. We are only satisfying a consumer need. Then there was the time I finally got to meet and spend some time with H.R. Giger in New York, who did the infamous poster inside my album, and Carcass, and Emerson, Lake and Palmer, and the Needle Suit Debra. You know, H.R. Giger, the guy who did Alien. And he had a lot of those Giger paintings we know up in the gallery, and the gallery owner was just this miserable wretch who had to have money. And then even the one that was in my Frankenchrist album that put me on trial, Obscenity and Ellie, he was there, and the gallery owner was shutting him off so important people wouldn't see the scary stuff. Giger was furious, and then he finally hid behind the doors. Important people showed up with a metal mask on, going "Rawr" at everybody. And then Carcass fans began showing up. The gallery guy wants to start charging $20 even to come up the elevator to admission. Giger's getting madder and madder. Then who walks into the gallery in full costume but Gwar? And this miserable Upper East Side gallery owner fled his own opening. He was so upset. Giger, however, was so happy to see Gwar. It made his night. Pulling a fish out of Lacey Peterson, remember that bird? With a lit cigarette in its mouth was bad enough. Then out comes this indescribably hideous green baby that had me falling on the floor. I was laughing so hard. So sick, so wrong, and so Gwar. A developmentally disabled Toltec fetish gone horribly wrong that turned out to be a simple piece of green foam that Dave said he'd carved one day in about 15 minutes when he was bored. I'm honored to this day that Gwar invited me to play Boss Glom in the Skullhead Face movie. And after shooting a bunch of stuff where I'd go back and forth with Sleazy P. Martini, the last take was when I would tear off the latex mask that took 8 hours to apply as I kind of blew up and turned into the Skullhead Face robot. And they had a hose under me, and as I was tearing it off, French dressing and rotten cottage cheese was coming in with such force, I never knew my sinuses could get that big. Then there was more, and I thought my head really was going to explode. Again, the screams were real. By then, Gwar and the slave pit were family to me. I had come to know there was much more to Dave than the life of the party who just had to make fun of everything and everyone. That beneath it all was a kind and caring human being. Like when he went out of his way to look after and take care of my good friend Donovan when she was badly injured in a car crash. Winston Smith and I treasured the times we hung out with Dave and the gang, plotting all sorts of twisted, indefensible art crime. Dave once told me, or more than once, he really wanted me and him to go up to the ranch land Winston has way back in the woods in Mendocino County, just let it all go, kick back and pick each other's brains. It meant the world to me that Dave and Don and Mike Bishop, among others, came to my new band Guantanamo School of Medicine show in Richmond a while back and told me, yeah, and the rest of you, well, come next time, please. And told me how much they liked it and how much my work then till now had inspired and influenced their own. I still have a message in my phone from Dave, as far from Oderus Urungus as you can get, telling me how much he loved me in almost hippy-dippy fashion and how much I meant to him as an inspiration and as a friend. That's pretty cool. Likewise, back at you, buddy. Message is still in my phone because I still haven't gotten around to calling him back. So, does this now bring us closure? I hope not. I hope not, because I don't think closure really exists, does it? Especially when something like this happens. As far as I'm concerned, closure is more of a recent cliche pop culture term used to sell everything from psych meds to religion to the death penalty. When my little sister Julie and her Scottish husband Clive died in a mountain climbing accident in 1996, well-meaning people tried to console me, telling me, "Don't worry, you'll get over it." I told them, "Yo, I don't want to get over it." How could I get over Julie and Clive? She was my sister and Clive was a cool dude. I was just beginning to know him. I want them inside me always. 2 or 3 times a year, something like this, it all comes back and I have to let it rocket through me, break down, lose it, cry all over again. Then I get up and I keep walking, straight on. And for those of you who, like me, are not just fighting lingering grief, but also a little piecey inside that's feeling kind of angry with Dave and the senseless way we all lost him, that's okay. Losing Dave was preventable, shouldn't have happened, and dude, you knew better. You knew better. That said, I feel like that one of the best ways to pay our respects and tribute to somebody we really love and admire is also to learn from their mistakes. When another good friend of mine, Kenny Jensen, drummer for DOA, was killed in a fire, Rob Wright from No Means No said, "You know how I'm going to remember Kenny?" And they grew up together. "I'm buying smoke detectors." Yeah. I mean, when my dad died last September, you know what I did for him? I went out and got me a colonoscopy. He refused to have one, and he might still be here today if they caught the cancer in time, although there were other stuff going on. But point is, okay, Dad, I'm going to do it. So, for Dave, I hope you're out there somewhere throwing Abe Lincoln and Jimi Hendrix into that great meat grinder in the sky.
Fuck yeah!
Brainstorming and exploding brainstorming with Robin Williams at last. Robin needs you right now. And boy, are you two gonna have a lot of fun. And for Gwar, and my brothers and sisters in the Slave Pit family, and everybody here, I love you all.
We love you, Jello!
Please, take care of yourselves. It's important. Thank you.
Fuck yeah!
Now, I'm going to pass the mic and the torch to Adam Blythe from Richmond's own Lamb of God.
Fuck yeah! Fucking Jello!
You're on, my friend.
You know, my name is Randy Bly, not Adam Bly. Adam Green is up next, and I was worried about fucking his name up, but Jello already did it for me, so it's good. This is not the first time I have delivered a eulogy for Dave Brockie. I did it at the private service, and now, just as important, we need to do it for all you people.